Assalamu alaikum. This is Mr. Hussain, MEL expert from Premier Mountain Communities Consultants, or PMCC, in Gilgit-Baltistan. Welcome to this explainer. Whether you're a development professional, a student, or a seasoned practitioner, today we're diving into an absolutely critical skill: designing projects. By the end of this tutorial, you're going to understand exactly how to build a rock-solid, logical foundation for any development intervention. We want to make sure your projects don't just happen, but actually succeed in creating real, meaningful change.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with an introduction to project design, move into explaining the results chain, explore some essential project designing tools, dive into the development of the Logframe, and finally wrap up with some practical tips.
Section 1. Introduction to Project Design, the true foundation of monitoring and evaluation.
You know, a lot of people think M&E is just, something you tack on at the very end of a project, but actually, it starts on day one. So what exactly is project design? It's a highly systematic approach. Every project is responding to a specific situation, right? So it has to clearly address the nuts and bolts: the what, when, why, how, who, and where. Establishing this clear logic of change is absolutely crucial. It's the only way a project can systematically deliver its intended results.
Moving right along to Section 2, the results chain, or as I like to call it, the causal pathway. During the design phase, we really need a roadmap, and that is exactly what the results chain is. It operates on a very simple if-and-then logic. Think of it like a car. If we put fuel in the tank, then we can drive. Simple, right? The chain breaks down into 5 sequential steps. First, we have inputs. These are the financial, human, or material resources we're putting in. Second, activities, the actual actions we perform using those resources. Third, outputs, the immediate tangible deliverables from those activities. Fourth, outcomes, the short to mid-term changes or results we achieve. And finally, impact, that long-term, sustainable, macro-level change the project is ultimately contributing to. Let's ground this with a real-life example of a community education intervention. Look how this flows. If we secure funds, our inputs, then we can carry out the activity of building separate toilets for girls' students. If we build those toilets, the immediate output is an increased attendance of girls' students. Makes sense, right? That output then leads to our short to medium-term outcome, an overall increase in the female literacy rate. And ultimately, that outcome feeds directly into our long-term impact, an increase in women's empowerment. You see how perfectly that if-then logic maps out the entire change process? Take a second and think about your own projects. Can you trace a perfectly straight line from your initial resources directly to your ultimate long-term goal?
All right, Section 3, Project Designing Tools for Diagnostics and Planning.
In the development sector, we generally rely on 3 main structural tools. First up is the Logical Framework Approach, or LFA. This is a highly structured analytical tool that really helps organize our thinking and allocate resources optimally. Second is ZOPP, or GOPP, which stands for Goal-Oriented Project Planning. Basically, this is a participatory variant of the LFA. It's adapted to be a bit more flexible to handle the subjective nature of social development issues. And finally, there's the Results Framework. This one is heavily output-oriented. It focuses strictly on linking the tangible, on-the-ground deliverables directly to our objectives. For the rest of this explainer, we're really going to focus deeply on the LFA process. So, the very first step in the LFA is situation and problem analysis. Projects don't just happen in a vacuum. They're always responding to some negative condition, context, and baseline. We use something called a problem tree to establish clear cause and effect relationships. Think about going to a doctor with a high fever. If the doctor just gives you medicine to lower your temperature, they're only treating the symptom. We need to diagnose the root cause. In our example here, the core problem is low household income in rural areas. Well, why does that happen? It's driven by non-remunerative agriculture and a severe lack of income-generating activities, or IGAs. By mapping the causes downward and the effects upward, we make sure we are actually treating the disease and not just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms. Now, once we have our problem tree, we convert it into an objective tree. And the trick here is wonderfully simple. We literally just flip the negative statements into positive ones. It's like flipping a switch. Notice how low household income transforms into increasing household income, lack of income-generating activities becomes increasing IGA opportunities. So instead of cause and effect, we're now looking at a means-to-an-end relationship. The lower branches have become the means, our future outputs and activities that are required to achieve that ultimate end goal sitting at the top of the tree. But let's be real, we can't always do everything. resources and time are limited. That brings us to alternative analysis. We need to assess the different branches of our objective tree against criteria like resource availability, technical feasibility, and just the general likelihood of success. In this specific scenario, rather than trying to somehow fix overall agricultural prices, the project team decided the best, most feasible strategy is to focus purely on increasing income-generating opportunities by improving access to capital and enhancing skills. We select the absolute best alternative, and boom, that becomes our specific project strategy. Of course, even the absolute best strategies face hurdles. That's exactly why we do risk and assumption analysis. Our projects are always influenced by external, environmental, operational, or political factors that are totally beyond our control. So we plot potential internal and external risks on a simple 2x2 matrix, weighing their overall impact against their likelihood of happening. We absolutely must aggressively mitigate any risks that land in the top right quadrant, the ones with a high impact and a high likelihood of occurring. From this analysis, we establish our project assumptions. These are the positive conditions that simply must hold true for our project logic to actually work.
Which brings us to Section 4, Development of the Logframe, our master project planning matrix.
The Logframe is a simple but honestly an incredibly powerful 4x4 matrix. It's basically a snapshot of your entire project on a single page. The rows give us our vertical logic. Our activities lead to outputs, outputs lead to the purpose or outcome, and the outcome leads directly to the goal or impact. Meanwhile, the columns outline our horizontal logic. We start with the narrative summary of what we want to do, followed by the objectively verifiable indicators to measure it, the means of verification to prove it, and finally the assumptions required for success. Let's break down those horizontal components just a bit more. First, we have objectively verifiable indicators, or OVIs. These are your core performance measures. They're what tell you exactly how you'll know if you've actually succeeded. Next up are the means of verification, or MOVs. These specify where exactly you're going to get the data to check those indicators. Maybe it's a field survey or a specific government report. And finally, those assumptions we talked about, the external conditions that must remain favorable for the project to successfully move up to the next level. Let's see how this all comes together using a simplified sample from our earlier income example. If our output is improving access to capital, our verifiable indicator might simply be the amount of credit taken. Our means of verification may be a structured interview schedule with the community. But here is where you see the vertical logic really in action. Getting that output to translate into our outcome of increasing income-generating activities hinges on one massive assumption. And that assumption is that local financial institutions will actually be supportive and provide loans to our beneficiaries. If that assumption fails, the entire logic breaks down. The true beauty of the Logframe is that it forces us to explicitly state these hidden dependencies out in the open. Finally, Section 5, Practical Tips for Effective Planning. When you're out there designing projects, you can avoid a lot of common mistakes by following a few best practices. First off, always treat root causes, not symptoms. Your project tree is your absolute best friend for this. Second, be strict about differentiating your outputs, which are your immediate deliverables, from your outcomes, which are the deeper behavioral or short to medium-term changes. Third, ensure your planning is genuinely participatory. Get your stakeholders in the room when you're mapping these trees. And lastly, please remember that the Logframe is not just a static piece of paper you submit and forget. Treat it as a dynamic, living document that adapts as situations change throughout the life cycle of your project. I want to leave you with this final thought. The clearer a project is about the logic of change underpinning its activities, the better it can deliver results. If you can master the results chain, you literally have the power to engineer genuine, lasting development impact. So take a hard look at your current project right now. What is the weakest link in your causal pathway? And what hidden assumption is currently holding your entire logic together? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more learning content.